everyone. Welcome back to Doorway to Discovery. I am Erin, if you don't already know me. And today we are going to be talking about romance novels. This was one of our poll winners that you, our patrons, filled out. So that's why we're talking about romance books today. But it also tied with nonfiction. So we will be doing a separate show on nonfiction titles for you because we wanted you to get the full experience of both.
And we wanted to talk about romance for
an hour. We really wanted to talk about romance. So I'll get started. So the book that I read is a really fun one. It's called the Bromance Book Club. There's a little romance novel in his back pocket. And this is actually a series. It's the first one. You could probably read them as standalones if you want to, but they're really interesting novels in that the whole concept of the novel, of the first one anyway, is I believe he's a hockey player, correct me if I'm wrong, and he's looking at divorce with his wife, and he's really disappointed. And so his friends invite him to brunch one day, and they're like, here's the deal. We have two rules. First rule is you don't talk about Bromance Book Club, and the second rule is you don't talk about Bromance Book Club. So we and basically his friends introduce him to this idea that they read romance novels and learn about like the way that women want to be treated and like what you should do in relationships. And they take all of this information they learned from the romance novel and apply it to their real life. So they kind of take him in. They're like, we're going to help you save your marriage. And it's really cute because you kind of get a novel within a novel. So you get the actual story, but then you get him reading the romance novel within the book, and then taking what he learns and like applying it to his relationship. And obviously she finds out at some point, and it's absolutely hilarious. But it's it's a really cool concept, and it's this really lovely camaraderie and like super feminist characters, and they're very funny, and it's a nice ensemble cast. So if you love them, there's more books, and it goes like each individual person gets their own story. So I loved it. I highly recommend it. Hopefully you will enjoy it as much as I did.
That sounds so good.
It's really cute, and they're
I feel like all men should read this book. Honestly.
All men should read Bromance Book Club. Yeah,
because it really does. Like, I mean, when you think about romances, like, there's a reason why women love them so much, and it's typically just like men listening to their women and like taking that into account. Like, it's the smallest things that make us happy, and this book really just like takes those ideas and like the ideas of like manliness and masculinity and kind of like breaks it down, and the characters are like not afraid to lean on each other. Like, there's a point where this man is like literally staying in a hotel, like he's going through it, he's crying, and his friends are there with him and supporting him and like telling him like it's okay to feel this way. And like it's just such like a lovely book to read from the perspective of the male in the relationship, because it seems very like supportive, and that's what I really loved about it.
Yeah, and they also call out tons of like toxic masculinity too. So they'll be like, hey, you know, we don't do that here. And I mean, it's like a perfect example of like women writing men that women want to be with, right? Like, and I guess we shouldn't overgeneralize with like male female relationships either, but I think the whole encompassing is that like romance novels are really popular for a reason, and like people love them for a reason, so there's no reason why you can't read one and sort of like apply little things to your life to maybe make it better.
Yeah, like you get a lot of like good ideas about what makes a good relationship, and typically it's just communication.
Yeah, it's usually just
How
like to each other.
Is it like if you just said what you needed to say and how you were feeling, this whole situation would go away. And I particularly love like older romances where they don't have the like ability to text somebody, and they have to like physically walk up to them and be like, I have to express my feelings. But this, like, I like this because of the camaraderie between like all of the men and them kind of just like letting loose and like doing this. And of course, like the first time this guy hears about it, he's like, this is ridiculous, why would I ever want to read this?
He tries to like walk out, and they're like, sit down and read. It's great.
It's great. And if you like keep reading the series, you eventually do get to the guy who started it all and kind of like where he found out about these books and like why he started reading them. So like
his name is Vlad, and he is a sweet cinnamon roll of a human. I should say human like he's a real person. Of a character, I should say.
But I don't think it's Vlad who started it. It's the second book.
Oh, you're right. It is the second guy. It's the the club owner, right?
Yes, yeah. Gosh, I
My
can't
bad.
remember his name. And it's a really, all of them are really phenomenal. They're really funny too.
Yeah.
And I think like that's one of the best parts. But then they're all like, I think they're like either sports players, there's like hockey and baseball, and there's like a country
Not
music.
everyone. Like some of them are athletes, but they're all, of course, because they're like ideal men written by a woman. So like one's like a country music star, and like one's a finance guy, and like, you know, one's a hockey player, one's a baseball player. Yeah.
Yeah. And like they have kids in this one. So this is what I also kind of love is that they already
Yeah.
have like two beautiful little daughters, and it's about a family, and like that's what I really loved about it.
Yeah.
That's really nice. You don't get
really
to
cute.
read romances like that often where
No, you
the
don't. And I
sexual
won't lie to you. Like, I actually didn't pick it up for a long time because I was like, I don't want to read about someone's failing marriage. Like, I want like my meet cute, which is like a literary term for like how two characters meet in a cute way, right? Like, I want that. I want the buildup of the relationship. Like, I want all that cuteness. And then, you know, at this point, you're starting halfway through, like they're already married. But I think like those stories are equally as important to read because it just like, you know, it's a different perspective, maybe outside of your romance comfort zone. They have kids. It's really, yeah, it was sweet.
It was
Loved it a
really
lot.
sweet. It was sweet to like see this married couple fall in love again. Like I think that's just as powerful as like a meet cute is because you know you've picked this person to be with you for the rest of your life, and you know it's not always going to be perfect. You're going to go through things, and I think especially like women who are in relationships already, like it's a great way to read it and not be like, oh man, like I don't get to fall in love again. It's like you do get to fall in love again with your partner.
Yes, and Shelby and I can say that as people
Yeah, in like long-term relationships,
long-term
like, "Don't
relationships
fall in
where we're
love
like,
again."
this is nice.
Yeah.
I identify.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a
So cute.
phenomenal book, and all of her books so far have been really
Yeah,
good.
they're really cute. Oh, the
There's a
author,
cat
her
cafe
name is
in
Lissa
Brooklyn.
K. Adams.
Yes.
There we go. And as usual, we'll have a lovely list for you all too. What about you, Kate? What did you read?
So for the romance podcast, I wanted to talk about One Last Stop because I think we've only mentioned Casey McQuiston in every episode of the podcast so far. But this is her new one. The story is that August is a university student who moves to New York City, and she needs to ride the Q train to get to class. And she kind of finds this like found family in Brooklyn. So she moves into this apartment, and all the friend group is like super cute and all queer. It's great. But then she rides the Q train every day. And every day on the Q train is this woman, Jane. And she is just always in the same train. She's always in the same car. And as the story goes on, you realize that Jane is actually, she thinks that she's in 1978, but she got trapped on the subway in 1978, and she's been riding this same Q train in the same car for years and years and years. And so then August starts trying to solve the mystery of how she got stuck on the train and free her from the train, but they don't know whether if they free her, she'll go back to 1978 or if she'll come back to the present. And it's
so good. I also think it's worth mentioning that Jane and August are the same age. Like she's not like with some 50-year-old that's just stuck on the train. It's got a little bit of like a supernatural, I shouldn't say supernatural, but like kind of like magic time travel-y thing.
Yeah, fantasy.
Yeah, because Jane doesn't realize that she's stuck. Like not until August sort of is like, hey, so what year were you born in? And she's like, you know, what year were you born in? She's like, I'm 27 or whatever. And then August is like, oh, so then you should be born in 1990, whatever. She's like, no, I was not. So it's what I like about it too is that it's young 20 somethings too. Like actually I think Jane is younger than 27 because August is 23 and I think Jane is like a couple years older than her or something. But it's kind of nice to read a romance that's like really young adults because it's like it's sort of nice to see like people sort of entering into the adult world, and like it's very relatable, and it was just so funny. And I loved like all of the themes of found family, and like I loved the descriptions of New York so much. And it was just, oh my gosh, it was just an incredible romance. Like, I didn't think I would like it as much as Red, White, and Royal Blue. And I really did, because this is the lesbian romance I have been looking for my entire life, because it's happy. Like, it's just, it's like a regular romance.
There's no trauma. It's just, it's just cute.
Unless you like take being stuck on a train for 30 years.
Yeah,
as like
that's true.
Not great, but I love it because I haven't finished it. I did start it, but I love it because they're in Brooklyn. She's like, is she just a hipster who listens to cassettes, or like you have no idea,
or does she not realize
that it's not 1978 anymore?
Because that's like a totally normal thing.
Yeah,
right?
That's
she's like maybe she's just really into grunge, like that's okay.
Yeah. Which, like, there are people out there who are like that, and that's what I absolutely adored, that she was just like, you will still fit in, like, here, you know? Like, I think I loved the descriptions and, like, the way that they talk about each other. I did personally find it, I was like having a hard time getting into it. Like, I think it was just, like, the repetitiveness at the beginning of her, like, going to work and coming home, and, like, I get that I just didn't get to where I needed to get to, so that was my own personal problem. Then I was like, I'm having
she works at a magical pancake house, Shelby.
She does.
I know. And like, I was just getting to the part where she realized some things from the pictures on the walls, and like, I was like, okay, I was getting into it, and then I think my arc ran out and all that kind of fun stuff. So I need to get back
on an advanced reader's copy of a book.
Yes, sorry, thank you. Yes, so that was my own. I need to get better at reading my books.
No, it's a cute one. It's a good summer read.
Yeah. It was a great summer read, and I just was like, I just loved it. Like, I kind of just wanted to curl up in it. Like, it was such a comforting, nice read, and I just highly recommend for anyone.
It has like a mystery to it too.
Yeah, exactly. With like Jane's family, there's a bit of a mystery there. Yeah.
And even with August, like both of their families, she's trying to solve like from both ends. And there's like a really interesting relationship that August has with her mother while she's like kind of trying to break away from her mother, but she loves her a lot. And August is a serious library user, which I love. She's just like, she's like, I maxed out my library card. It's like, we
don't have those. What do you mean a max? There's no max.
Maybe in New York. We don't know.
Maybe in New York.
That's true.
So what did you read, Shelby?
So I read Emily Henry's People We Meet on Vacations. Okay, Emily Henry. Amazing, phenomenal, beautifully written. I cried. Okay, cried from pure joy. So this is one of my personal favorite tropes, which is a typical story that you're going to find in a book. So you would find something like enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, like those are different kinds of tropes that you'll find in romances. So this one, they're best friends to lovers. They've known each other since first year university. So there's Alex and Poppy. And Poppy is very like fun-loving, very like colorful, and like always wearing tons of patterns and is exciting. And Alex is kind of more subdued, and he's very much so the responsible one. He lost his mother at like a really young age and kind of took over that like parenting role. And so when he meets Poppy, they kind of like don't really clash that well, but then keep getting like thrown into situations where they have to be together. And I guess they're from like the same state, so they like drive home together after first year, and they kind of just connect really well, and they become really good friends. And she wants to be a travel writer, so you kind of start the book off 9 years into their friendship, and then every chapter you kind of get a glimpse back at a past interaction, and then you go back and forth and kind of like meet.
Because they go on a yearly trip together, so you get like the synopsis or the experience of the trip, like from
so
each year.
It opens up on like one of their last trips. So one of their last trips together, and it's just like I love the moment that they're talking about, because she's kind of like having fun and like dancing in this bar, and just like it's raining and he's literally sitting reading a book. And you're just like, what are you doing? So it's just really sweet, because it's just one of those moments where they keep missing each other. Like one of them will be in a relationship and the other one won't, and then they kind of just go back and forth. And you know, it's just one of those things where it's such a, I thought like a powerful story, because I think like long relationships with friends that turn into love interests are some of the strongest relationships, because you already have that foundation. And when they finally like tell each other how they truly feel, I literally cried tears of joy. Like I was just like so ecstatically
It's
happy.
so cute. It's like
It's
one
so
of the best
sweet.
scenes I've read in a book. Because I think the whole thing is like in their last trip they had like a huge falling out.
Yeah.
And then she plans like another trip and like sends it as an olive branch almost. And like this is like the trip that they finally like fall for each other. But it's also really funny.
Well, and everything goes wrong. Like nothing
Yeah,
is
like
going right.
everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong.
Yeah, and so I think so what ends up happening is like she stays in the city, and I can't remember if she's like in Chicago or if she's in New York, I cannot remember. And he goes home to their home state, and she just never wanted to go back there. So she can't really understand why he would do that. And there are some other things that I'm not going to give away, but she ends up doing this, and I think it's not even funded by her actual editor. So that's the other big thing, is she gets a actual job at an editor. So she was a freelance, and so she would go on these trips and they'd get free stuff, and it was exciting for her because she would experience something new. Without having to be like beholden to anybody. So now she's with an editor, and the editor's like, no, like I don't think that's a great idea. So she's like, I'm just gonna go on the trip on my own. And she like kind of lies to him. And then like the Airbnb sucks. It's like under renovation. Like
There's no air conditioning.
they like lose a tire. Like all the worst things like that could possibly happen go wrong. But they finally like have that moment where they get to like discuss it. And I think the other thing that I loved was that the ending was so beautiful in that she found what was missing in her life and like what made her happy, and she realized what all of these trips meant to her. And it wasn't just about going on vacation, but rather the people that she got to meet along the way, and that's what she really loved. And I think like it literally is giving me chills like thinking about the ending of this book, because it was just all around like a lovely book, because it's more like, I would say, like a more of like a women's literature book. Like it's romance is a big part of it, but it's really about like her growth. And I think that's like it really showed me like your relationships are important, but it's also like the experiences that you have that like help to make you who you are and like find your path in life. That Emily Henry always makes me cry. It's always very deep and like thoughtful. Beach Read is another one that is just, look at it.
I'm ready.
Like another meet cute situation, which is adorable. They're like, in like,
this one is very funny though. This one made me laugh more so than people we meet on vacation.
Mhm.
This one was just, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, so it's Augustus and January.
Yes.
Oh. So I was gonna say we should tell the listeners like a little quick synopsis. So January is a romance writer, and I think she loses her dad at the beginning of the book, which is really rough because she had a difficult relationship with him, and she realizes that he left her his beach house, and so she thinks she's going to sell it. So she goes down to wherever the beach house is, and she's going to stay there for a little while, and she's just kind of like going to come to terms with everything that's happening, and she's going to clean it up, and she's going to sell it. But what she's also dealing with is like writer's block. She's having a really hard time writing her next novel, and like her time, like her deadlines have come and gone, and she's missing them, and her publisher is freaking out, and she's freaking out, and it's a fun time for everyone for January. And then Augustus ends up staying next door, and she realizes after seeing him that they went to university together, and they hated each other because they were both in the writing program, and they were constantly this is the enemies to lovers trope.
Yes.
That we mentioned earlier, which we can't speak for everyone else, but I love.
Yes.
And
my literal
they
favorite.
realize, yeah.
I love it so very much.
It's just
is this
my
hate
favorite
or
thing.
do I love you?
Yeah, there's a really thin line between love and hate, and I love reading about that over and over again. So, they always competed in school, and Augustus always just did like slightly better than January, so she's like bitter about that. And so obviously, I think like she gets mad because like he's playing music too loud one night, and she like goes over angrily and like banging on the door, and things happen. And he's also a writer, and he wrote like a really well-renowned novel and got all these like critical acclaims and literary awards for it, and he hasn't been able to write anything either. So they get this conversation where he's like, well, like my style of writing is harder to write than yours, and she's like, oh yeah. So they make a bet that he has to write a romance novel and she has to write like a literary fiction, and obviously they fall in love. Spoiler alert. But it's really funny, and like Shelby said with the other Emily Henry book, it's more than just the romance. It's really about like dealing with what life throws at you, and how relationships can help you get through things, and finding yourself and all of these wonderful things. So while the books are incredibly sweet and romantic and hilarious, they're really lovely, and they have a really great message, and they put smiles on your faces, especially with romance novels. And I know Kate mentioned this before, with her, like the female romances, is you can find diversity and inclusion in lots and lots and lots of books, but I find sometimes if you've got characters who are a little bit different, like maybe they're autistic, or they have there's another series, like the first one's like Act Your Age, Evie Brown, I think, where the character has fibromyalgia. Also a absolutely adorable romance.
I love that book so much.
So good. Unfortunately, I feel like, do you have it?
I have the third one. This is the third sister, and this is Act Your Age, Eve Brown, and I think the first one is
first one is Get a Life, Chloe Brown.
Get a Life, Chloe Brown.
Yeah. Take a Hint, Danny Brown.
And Take a Hint. Yeah. So it's really cute, but the beautiful thing about the representation in romance novels is they're happy stories.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get to see people's trials and tribulations in like an overly negative, traumatic way. They're not sad. Like there's a happy ending, and you get to see the representation in a positive way. And that's kind of what I love about that, because the world can be hard, and I just want to smile. I just want to laugh.
At the end of the day, yeah, you just want to watch somebody fall in love. And that's why I think, especially right now in the pandemic, as you've all probably been listening to us since January, have heard us talk a lot about romance, and it's because it's a happy story. And I know I'm going to open those pages, and no matter what happens, everyone's going to be happy in the end. Yeah. And I think right now, with so much uncertainty and you have no idea where things are going, it becomes very easy to fall into your comfort zone, which is, I know where this story is going to go. I know I'm going to be okay at the end. I'm not going to be blindsided. And it's, I think Erin was recently telling us that it's the highest grossing book genre, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll do more research and I'll send it over so we can have like a little blurb at the bottom of the video, but from what I read, is romance brings in $1.44 billion annually. And that's above crime, mystery, inspirational, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, all of them. It's just like at the top of the list in terms of people buying it. And I mean, I get it.
Everyone loves a good romance.
They do.
It's really true. Like everyone does. Like why wouldn't you? I don't know. I'd like to talk to somebody who doesn't and just like pick their brain. I'm like, because it's happy, like all the serotonin.
And also it's like, romance is such a wide-reaching genre. Like you can find whatever you want. Like I've got a pile of romance books right next to me, like just in case we needed to talk about them for this podcast. But it's like, you can go classic. Like you can get the original Enemies to Lovers. You can get Pride and Prejudice. Yeah. You can get the fun contemporary royal stuff. I've got an Alyssa Cole book here. I'm so excited to read this one. I've literally got The Hating Game here.
Oh,
best romance book ever, right there.
Top 5.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
So good. In love. And they're making a movie with Lucy Hale.
Oh, yeah. The Hating Game is, you know what? The Hating Game is a really good introductory romance novel. The Hating Game is a good book to read if you've never read a romance, because it'll give you exactly what you want.
Yeah. Everything.
And it's
Enemies to Lovers, right?
Enemies to Lovers. Yeah. The two characters, they are assistants to CEOs of publishing houses. And the two publishing houses have to amalgamate because of the industry so that they don't lose the business. So now there's co-CEOs, and it's Lucy and Josh, and they are co-assistant CEOs, and they are always in competition with each other. And it turns out there's a very fine line between love and hate, and I love to see it. Yes. So
we love to see it. And you can find like teen reads too. Yep. Like I love a good teen romance because it's usually so wholesome. Shelby, you were mentioning The Opposite of Always in
good.
I love that one. It's so good. It's a fantastic romance.
It dealt with so many big topics at the same time, but it really was just this boy who was in love, and he would do anything to be with the woman that he was in love with. And I think, like, again, like romance overall is a happy genre. I can speak from somebody who said they would never read romance.
Then she started working at the library, listeners, and this is what she did to her.
I was one of those like horror, mystery, thriller only. That's all I would read. And, you know, everybody at the library really broke me down because I had this understanding that it was, you know, cheesy and like not feminist at all. Like the women characters were just kind of like not great, like not very well rounded. And I mean, I'd watched Jane the Virgin and I'd seen like their little like her experts oh my god, my voice, her like little excerpts of her book, and I was like, man, this just seems like flowing shirt, like doesn't seem very interesting. And then I read my first historical romance, which was the Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics, and I was like, oh my god, these women are so phenomenally written, so unique, so diverse, so just
strong,
their own strong characters, very feminist. It's so amazing to read, and I think that's what made me fall in love with it, is that I just didn't understand how well developed these women can be. And of course, just like any books genre, there are going to be some that are not great. It happens, you know, but like I've just found overall, like it's such a feminist type of read because the women are strong and independent, and if they're not at the beginning, they are at the end. They like go through typically some kind of growth. And sometimes as a woman, you just want to read a book where like a woman is writing what she wants you to see for a woman. And sometimes when you read thrillers or mysteries, especially if they're written by men, like the way that women are portrayed in them sometimes is just really frustrating. So to me, like this makes me feel good about myself, and it really makes me feel empowered about like not only to fall in love, but to like share that with somebody else.
Yeah. And like Shelby was saying, I think, I know we've talked about it in other episodes as well, like if you're new to the genre, you don't know how to start it or whatever, like cross genre, it's a thing, right? So, you know, if you like historical novels, then you can find like a historical romance. Or if you really like fantasy romance is a massive genre.
Yeah, sci-fi too. Sci-fi is another really big one. You can literally find anything. But I think at the end of the day, you can always come to us and be like, hey, listen, like I typically read this kind of book. And we'll be like, well, here you go. Here's one that's very similar to it. It just has a romance aspect. And I mean, even a lot of the like Clive Cusslers and the James Pattersons, they have some type of romance in it typically. It's just not the same.
It's not the star.
Yes.
I like when the romance is the star of the show.
Exactly.
I don't care who's falling in love.
Yeah.
I just want someone to fall in love.
And I want there to be cute montages of dates, you know, like I want you to go to a carnival or to a farmer's market, or like, you know, I like those little like excursions. Maybe it's because I can't do them right now, but reading about the same,
I think that's so valid. And actually, you know what? One of my favorite genres of romance novels is actually, I've noticed this recently, and there's a couple I can think of, is like the authors have almost become self-aware. And it almost feels like, you know, when you're watching a TV show and somebody breaks the fourth wall and they look like right into the camera, there's a lot of romance novels out there that start to make fun of the tropes, because like I love a good trope, right? Like, and we've talked about tropes before, but sometimes they can be really cringy, and that's fine. But like, for instance, like there's one here. Yeah, and it's all about, there's like this one called Would Like
just brought that home.
It's really cute. And there's another one that's similar called like Meet Cute. And if I'm remembering, so this is, her name's Evie, and she works for like a production company, and she's supposed to be like trying to convince their biggest client to like write this movie. It's a rom-com, and he like won't write. So she starts like trying to write scenes for him to sort of like trigger, you know, his like kind of help with his writer's block. But she'll set up these like situations so she has something to write about. So she like fabricates the meet cutes and like meets somebody in the process. But it's really funny because like it's so like natural and wholesome, but she doesn't even realize what's going on because like the meet cute didn't work. So like, why would the guy at the next table at the cafe care? Like, and it's funny because it's just sort of like poking fun at it, and but in a really fun, I said the word fun way too many times.
That's okay.
But it's a really fun way to do it.
Yeah, I think it opens up with like, she's got little like meet cutes that you see in movies. So it's like Notting Hill, and she like trying to spill her orange juice, and then like a kid gets in her way. Like this is literally the first like 5 pages. Like I tried.
It's really cute.
And I just thought like that's so sweet. Like I love those little moments, and I love calling back on like our old like movies that we used to watch all the time that really like made us fall in love with falling in love. Because I watch a lot of romance, but I never thought to read it. And I think reading it feels so much more like I feel like I'm falling in love too. Like I like to fall in love every day.
But I do love that self-referential stuff. Like if you, not, it's not a book, but the Mindy Project, the show, like she's constantly talking about the influence that When Harry Met Sally had on her life, and like all of the romance movies she loved. And it's like, I love that kind of stuff. I love when they talk about it in books. I love like even, this isn't a romance book, but the Jane Austen Society, there's some romance to it. It's an historical fiction, but it's like they're constantly talking about Jane Austen's romances as they relate to their lives, and like that kind of aspirational love. And that's what I love about romances, is that you can read them and be like, I want to aspire to that level of communication with my partner. I want to aspire to like have a cute, like a meet cute like that. And it's like, it's, you know, it's just nice. It's heartwarming.
It is. And sometimes it's nice to feel good when you read a book. Like
it's just warm and fuzzy.
Exactly. So, you know, it's summer, you know, you're going to lay your towel out on the beach one day. Like, it's just nice to pick up a nice little book that it's not going to take a lot.
I'm sorry, but look at how cute the covers are. And I know that's so silly, but look at, like, they're just so funny, right? Look at them. How would you not want to read this? It's so bright and adorable.
Do you want to see a really cute cover? Always. It's a teen romance that I haven't read yet, but I'm so excited for. It's called The Henna Wars. Isn't that a beautiful cover? Like, I just, look at this.
I love that.
So pretty, right? It's, I think it's two Muslim teens that both do henna. And then they're like competing with each other, and then they fall in love.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh.
I'm very excited to read it.
I love competitions.
Same.
Goes back to enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
I think enemies to lovers and fake dating.
Those fake dating or a marriage of convenience.
Yeah. Ooh, yes.
We can name them all and be happy with all of them.
Are there any tropes that you don't like?
Ooh.
Yeah, no. I like them all. I think they're all fun. And sometimes you want to like mix it up. Like maybe I'll find like an enemies to lovers, and I do love a good enemies to lovers, but like it has to be done right. Like there are some that I was like, ooh, this is too aggressive. Like you guys really don't like each other. So it's not like making a lot of sense. But you know, like typically when it's sweet and it's cute and like, I don't know, I love those. You know, like Bridget Jones's Diary, like, you know, I love it. I really do. And you just never see it come in the love triangle I don't like. That's one I definitely
I don't like love triangles.
Yeah. No, it bothers me. Like in general, everything else is okay. It's just the love triangle.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's fair also. Like it kind of hurts.
I agree. And I think we should also do a shout out for like, I think most of the books that we've talked about, the romance novels anyway, have been fairly lighthearted. Yeah. There are tons of romance novels out there that are not lighthearted, that are equally as good, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a trope, but those are probably books that I don't read as often because I want to be happy.
Yeah.
But
and when I reach for a romance, I'm looking for that happiness.
That's what I'm looking for, right? Yeah. But I think an author worth mentioning is Colleen Hoover. If you guys have ever read anything by her, I've read a couple of books. One that's really good is called It Ends With Us. And I won't get too much into it because her books are intense, like, and they're definitely romance novels, but they're intense and they always deal with like pretty serious topics, and they can be kind of traumatic at times. And usually they have a happy ending, but that's just like a certain genre that people love, and she's absolutely an incredible author. But it's not something that I normally would want to pick up because I want to smile and I want to laugh. But I worth mentioning for people who do like to read more serious topics, but they still want romance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, there are a lot of historical fiction romances that are a lot more serious. Like I'm thinking the World War II ones specifically. Like the Jane Austen Society is actually pretty serious a lot of the time, and like there are some really heavy themes in it. I didn't love the Jane Austen Society, but like there are lots that are set in wartime that are like a lot darker and atmospherically darker, but they still have that romance element to it. And like they're more dramatic.
Yeah.
I think they're more like drama types. Like I'm thinking Wally Lamb. Like Wally Lamb always tends to have some kind of a romance aspect to it, but it's sad and hard. Like I'm trying to think of, I know this much is true. It's a really hard one to read. There's a lot going on, but the love between the husband and wife is like is pretty intense, and like they do like come apart and come together. And I think like Wally Lamb again is like can be hard to read because they're dealing with a lot of like really hard topics, and he tends to write long books, but in the end it's worth it, like 100% worth it to go on the journey, but you have to be in like the right headspace to read it.
And that's like for Nicholas Sparks, right?
Yeah.
Like when you pick up a Nicholas Sparks book, you know you're going to cry, and it's probably not going to be tears of happiness. So
yeah, it's going to be hard.
Or Taylor Jenkins Reid as well.
Yeah, she writes. I'm so excited to read her new one.
I'm reading it right now. It's so good.
But Daisy Jones, and I haven't read Evelyn Hugo yet.
Evelyn Hugo is okay. Daisy Jones and the Six and Evelyn Hugo are like so tied in my mind. Some days I like one more than the other, and other days not. But what I love about Taylor Jenkins Reid, I'm reading her new one now, Malibu Rising, and the universe is all the same. So like the actors that they mention in Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo are mentioned in Malibu Rising. And I don't know if you remember Mick Riva in Daisy Jones and the Six. So he's the father of the main characters in Malibu Rising.
I love some continuity, Taylor.
Me too. I'm so into it because like you can see references to the other books, and it's like this whole little universe. But she writes excellent romance, like excellent, but it's often quite devastating.
Yeah, and I mean, I can only speak to Daisy Jones and the Six. That it was such a phenomenal book. But yeah, they're rough. Mind you, what I will say about that book in particular is it's real. It's real, and it's gritty, and it's raw. And I think it's probably like a really accurate portrayal of that potential circumstance. But you're right, they're romances, but they're not happy.
You get like the satisfaction from the romance, but it's just a lot heavier, and it's like actually talking about like what it means to try to continue to love someone, and what it means when that love gets taken away from you. And it's like but it's so good.
But that segues into us promoting some of our stuff a little bit. So I did want to mention that we have some really great digital options for you guys at home. If you don't already have a library card and you want one, you can submit a form online, and then you come and pick it up through contactless pickup, or if at the point that we're at when this comes out that Central is open, you can go to Central to pick up your card there, and sign up for one in person as well. You can always do that. But we'll email you your barcode before you come and pick it up, so you can sign into Hoopla and Libby and all of our other really phenomenal services. But I want to do a cool shout out to Hoopla today, because I've been using Hoopla for the last year. It has been honestly phenomenal. It has so many amazing books on there. I was just looking around the other day, and they have every single Harry Potter audiobook and ebook on there right now. They have brand new books that just came out.
This is what it looks like.
Yep, and
they've got boyfriend material.
Boyfriend material.
Is that Danny Brown too?
No, Alexis Hall.
Alexis Hall. So it's honestly, they're doing an overhaul on their audiobook section anyways right now. You're going to get a better interface, like a better visual look of your audiobook on there, because right now it's still in the works, but it's going to look a little bit better. It's phenomenal. You only get 10 checkouts a month. So what we always recommend, if you're in Durham and you live in Durham, you can go to any Durham library and get a library card for free. And then you just switch your accounts around so you get more credits.
Loophole.
Yes. And it's not really a loophole, because Hoopla, like, it's not making you make a whole new account. It's literally just letting you log into another library. So it keeps all of the books that you're already listening to. So it's not like you're going to lose them. They're all there. But it's just honestly so phenomenal. It has also has children's books on there as well that are animated, that have they read to you, read alongs, like everything you could possibly think of, it's going to be on Hoopla. Just really amazing service. And of course, if you can't find it on Hoopla, you can always find it on Libby as well. And Libby works more like a library in that there are only a certain amount of copies, and you have to put holds on stuff that's currently checked out.
Whereas you don't have to put a hold on anything on Hoopla.
Exactly. There's no
That's
holds.
incredible.
Everything's always available. And if by chance you can't find your ebook or audiobook on either of those, you can always submit a recommendation for purchase and we can get you a digital copy.
Yep.
Or we can direct you to another library that might already have one. But there are so many awesome services for finding books and ebooks and audiobooks right now that honestly, anytime you want to call us up and be like, hey, what's the best place to look? We have the recommendations for you. And of course, every time we have a podcast, we have a list of all of the books that we mentioned throughout the entire episode that you can go and put on hold. And if we have a book that we mentioned here that is not in our system, we do try and get it for you guys. So if there's ever anything, just let us know. Or if we miss something, we're always here for you guys in recommendations.
So to build off of what Shelby was saying, because we know the weather is beautiful and you're out and about, so why not listen to an audiobook on the beach? I'm not saying that's a great idea, friends. But if you wanted also a little bit of a surprise, we do library to go kits. We do them for children, but we also do them for adults, and it's really fun. So you fill out a quick little form about what you like to read, and then a librarian, if you do it at Central, you might get some picks from me.
We'll and at together. Brooklyn, you might get them from Shelby or me.
Yeah, at Brooklyn, you might get them from Kate and Shelby. So you might get some more beach reads. I'm just saying. But we put a nice little grab bag of books together for you that are a little bit of a surprise. So you get to open it up and see what's there. And if not, that's not really your cup of tea. We also do Discover Reads lists, which you can find on our website as well. So again, you fill out a form, and then one of the librarians in the library will fill out we'll give you 8 to 10 titles that they think that you would like. So you can place those holds yourself if you don't want to actually do a bag of physical books. So we've got some options for you. If you want a romance grab bag, then be like, hey, I listened to your podcast. We thought you guys were kind of fun. Give me some good romance books and we'd be happy to do so.
Okay, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us to listen to us talk about romance. It was one of our winners, and we absolutely adore romance with all our hearts. If you ever need anything, make sure to reach out to us. Don't forget to sign up your kids if you have any kids at home for the TD Summer Reading Club. It did start as of the 19th of June. There's so many great programs happening this summer. We've got another summer adventure walk coming out in July, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. And of course, we're always here to help you with all of your book needs. So reach out to us, check out the list that we're going to be putting up the day that this comes out. And thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Just a heads up, the library is starting a TikTok account. So keep an eye out for us on that as well, because we already have Facebook, social media, and YouTube, but we will be coming to TikTok shortly. So listeners, I hope I get to see you there.
Yes. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.